The very romantic boat ride with your teammates, a team bonding exercise is definitely crucial. A little bit later in the dungeon after that, we will see the trash mob that 90% of groups will definitely skip because it's not a very efficient pool. Most likely going to see Zek throw out the Imprison on it. Everyone else just run on by. The question is, what will Don't Choke use to get past it? Will they actually decide to invest that Shroud of Concealment, or will they use some other means?
You can sap it.
Yeah, they could just do a sap. Yeah, that would probably be the easiest thing for the Rogue to do because it's just not an efficient pool. It's just standing there by itself.
Yeah, and then after you get up into the actual instance, so to say, you have one scout that you have to deal with. Again, the Prot Warrior being really useful with that stun that they bring. But something that's pretty interesting as well, we haven't seen, we don't have either of these teams having grips, as we've seen a lot of DKs as well, and those are just being really useful, bringing those scouts in, making sure that you can kill them effectively. And there we go. That's a...
the Paladin just used some CC
Repentance,
there.
yes.
So he has a really easy Repentance coming out. And now Team Deplete going to move to this first pool. And this is right out of the gates where we start to see some of the big choices being made, sometimes moving a little bit further over to the left. I remember there was actually a moment where we saw a Paladin jump in and just get chunked right at the beginning. And wow, we're actually going to see a healer just get deleted by that pool as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure if that was a cat or what it was actually. I didn't see because I was looking at Team Deplete going for this relatively standard pool here, walking over, not the bridge, but over the river there at least, or whatever it is. But as we mentioned before, this is bolstering explosives. So these next packs here has a lot of very low HP mana worms. So it's going to be interesting to see how they end up doing this, if they just, because obviously they can't bolster that one guy in the middle there, so you're going to have to be very careful with what pulls you do.
Yeah, that is for sure. And we already saw just how threatening those cats can be. If you do procrastinate getting into range of them, you can just absolutely be deleted. Now the first Mana Worm pack is going to be pulled. The Warrior is low. They may want to try to bring him up. We are going to see the Holy Pally do just that. This is going to be explosive as well, so if any of those explosions do go off, those fell explosives, that's going to be about 50% of the health of the entire group.
Looks like it was a little bit of a mispull there from Team Deplete, or it was because everyone ran into that sentry and pulled a little bit. It might have been that they wanted to pull those anyway, but here we see exactly what I was talking about. Them imprisoning the guard and then killing these mana worms. When they die, they bolster everything else that is in combat in a certain range, right? So if they pull them out far enough, that mob will not get bolstered, and these mana worms are gonna end up dying, and the guard is gonna be unbolstered, and they're gonna be able to deal with him right now.
I do also want to commend right now on the side of Team Deplete, their healer doing an incredible job on those spell explosives. That's going to take a huge burden off of the DPS. It is always good to see the healer taking that responsibility, and now they are going to go about getting that guard out of the CC, taking him down, like you said, with the threat of the Mana Worms being gone. On the other end, we are going to see Don't Choke at about the same place, but they do have several more mobs up, so they have to worry about that bolstering affix quite a bit more.
Yeah, right now we're seeing them go past these sentries, beacons that you need to disable. One of the sentries actually getting really close. You gotta make sure that they interrupt or stun him before he sounds the alarm there. Right there, it goes off, but here we have one of these cats that jump on players. These are nasty debuffs as well that you can dispel. Jumping on top of the Warlock, they're going super low. It is 45, so they're going to do a lot of damage there. Warlock going super low, still having that debuff. I believe he might have used the dispel earlier on, and Don't Choke is just going to get up to that trash pack right now.
Yeah, so those cats, we've seen in the past, like they really can do quite a considerable amount of damage. One of the nice things that we actually did see from the Demon Hunter tank was he put a decent amount of space between himself and the cats initially, so he did get the first leap. So he took that big assault of damage. But one of the nice things about having a Demon Hunter is you can actually pull them down. Neither of the teams do have that luxury right now, so they have to actually deal with the damage. Team Deplete dealing with this last trash before they actually get to Gerdo. But before we jump in on that boss, Trekkie, what should everyone at home be looking for?
Right on this trash packs first, we actually see very good utility from the Demon Hunter, which is something I really like. Why I like Demon Hunters. Oh, Hippo actually getting destroyed from a frontal there, not putting attention to where he needs to actually be looking with these mobs that has a frontal ability. They're dealing with the construct as well that has a cast. It seemed like it went off there. It's gonna heal the other ads, and they're gonna have to DPS the construct before, as you see that guard is actually going up in HP.
Yeah, the guard too going to get affected by this now, getting bolstered. Need to deal with it. It's going to be that much harder at this point. But we do see that the healer, confident enough, can move out, actually take down that tower and deactivate it. Don't choke, getting ready as well to be pulling this boss.
Yeah, both of them are basically very close here. Team Deplete has a bit more trash there. They did pull a little bit earlier, a little bit mobs. Don't Choke handling this trash pack without their healer for a little bit. Team Deplete now going to be pulling this boss. This is not tyrannical. So this boss should die relatively quickly, especially from what we've seen from this team, how much DPS they do push out on that boss, and it's already 20-30% gone.
Yeah, definitely do need to pay attention to the mechanics, though. If you do, it could spell an easy wipe, but at about that 25% mark, if they have leveled their alchemy up, we took all of the items out of this dungeon. There is no RNG. The only item that has remained is that vial. So you actually need to have either an alchemist or a rogue. We know that there's definitely a rogue on the side of Don't Choke, so they only have to get through that first 75%. The question is whether or not Team Deplete has activated the vial using alchemy. And moment of truth, he runs over to the vial. Is he going to get big, or is he just going to
You can actually see that it's actually already activated there. It like glows greenish, so now we eat it and boom, it's dead. Now they're gonna deal with this construct. Interesting here, they are going ahead instead of going backtracking, so we're gonna see if Don't Choke might go for the other strat, get into that Enforcer right away, and gonna start dealing with, so to say, getting the lieutenants from the second boss away from her as they buff each other.
This is the more common path that we did see before the first week of the MDI, so I think going for this one, if you have more practice on it, definitely does make more sense. And we are seeing Team Deplete right now moving the construct through the building as they do actually get up to that upper portion. Now, we are going to see Don't Choke finally getting the boss down as well, using the vial, and it looks like they're going to go for the backtracking strategy that we saw a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, it looks like it's just faster getting back over here. And they're gonna shortly the doors are gonna open here, so they're gonna be able to get through basically. But Team Deplete not wasting any time, just going forward. You have a pretty dangerous pack here. It's gonna be interesting to see if they do the imprison tactic here as well when they have a bunch of these imps as well, which might bolster up.
I think they just need to really have some clean AoE as well, and they should be able to do it nice and easy, making quick work of that explosive. Some serious damage coming out from Team Deplete, and these fell explosives look like they're about to go off, but finally are dealt with. Now the Enforcer is their primary concern, and that should fall soon as well. Don't Choke, though, has made up a considerable amount of time by going through this back alley, backdoor strat.
Yeah, they're basically pretty close here. Don't Choke having a few percentage back, but they are dealing with different trash packs here, so whatever they're going to end up with in the end is going to be vastly different to what they actually end up pulling. A Team Deplete having the tank go really, really low here. What's very interesting about, important about this Plaza here is the patrolling imps. Don't Choke already dealt with one of them, and then dealing with another trash pack, making sure that those imps can't run into them when they're dealing with a trash pack. That could be especially deadly due to bolstering.
Yeah, I mean, the trash in here is definitely scary, but you have to look at the bright side, right, Trekkie? There are no more cats left, and that's definitely a positive.
Yeah, and then we're seeing them dealing with these Enforcers now, and we see the Don't Choke line of sighting the debuff here as we see everyone taking damage. These Enforcers are empowered by 45, so you definitely do not want to deal with them and get everyone having that debuff up, because that's going to do so much damage. Everyone hiding again, everyone taking damage, and not a single person going to be line of sighting. Everyone taking damage. It's going to be really hard for the healer to keep up. 2 people go down. The other people still have the debuff, but the healer might get there in time and save their life.
This could easily be a wipe at this point, and it looks like we're going to see just that. The tank trying to remain up. We have the double warriors fighting side by side, but they are not going to be able to do it. The fell explosion should go off. That should seal the fate of Don't Choke. Now with 9 deaths on the board, Team Deplete fighting a scary trash pack of their own with that Enforcer pull, trying to make good work of the explosives, and it looks like this should be exactly what Team Deplete needed to pull firmly ahead in this series.
Yeah, Don't Choke had an Enforcer at very low HP as well, having to invest a lot of time in there. Plus a trash pack was a little bit unfortunate there, where they were moving out to the other trash pack, pulling it with Enforcer, trying to save time there, but then not being able to line of sight the ability as effectively. And it looked like everyone thought that they were safe, but it looks like the corners might not be as as precise as they would like it to be.
Yeah, I thought that they maybe had gotten it as well, but you can see Team Deplete not taking any risks. Yes, they are playing around the corner, but they still have that Enforcer all the way back a little bit further, so there is just no question whether or not you were in the line of sight. Now, of course, just to reiterate, the Enforcer does have an ability that's going to do massive amounts of AoE damage to the entire group. If you don't have stuns and kicks for that, you can just line of sight, and that line of sight will prevent you from taking the damage. It is relatively similar to the Fel Explosive.
Yeah, she is actually immune to both stun and kick, but the difference between this and Fel Explosive is that this leaves a dot on you. Fel Explosive you can fairly easily survive. If it goes off, it's bad, but everyone goes down to half HP. This, it's a big explosion and leaves a dot, and we just saw that every single person having that up, the healer was just not able to cope with that, and now we see both teams right now dealing with the first lieutenant. Whenever you kill these enforcers, it's gonna make one of the second boss, Flame Breath, one of her lieutenants come out, get out of hiding, because if they're close to each other, they buff each other with HP, and you basically can't really kill them that way because they get way too much HP. These lieutenants doesn't really end up doing all that much. They just have a bunch of HP. They're also increased by fortified, so you don't want to pull them with other to bolster, and they're gonna have so much HP too.
Yeah, that tends to be the way that this goes. You basically, you're moving around, you're trying to get the most efficient trash pulls to get to 100%, because this is going to be really the remainder of the trash for you. And then every time you kill an Enforcer, you get that little mini boss essentially, and once you take out the 3 of them, you're ready to go on to the boss.
Yeah, mini boss, lieutenant, and now we're seeing Team Deplete having that Vengeance Demon Hunter, just silencing all those sims, not having to use Arcane Torrent. I really like the pick here from Team Deplete. I know they would have probably run a Demon Hunter anyway, but I really like the utility that they bring with that, and especially they have the grip as well, which they can use to great effect.
Yeah, so they're really good on this trash, and then they also get strong after the second boss when you actually do see the Spectral Sight during that Guess Who phase, during the mystery that we're about to jump into after the second boss. They can actually whittle it down a lot quicker with that Spectral Sight ability.
Yeah, you basically just have to find all 5 Rumongers and then you just activate it and you know exactly who it is. So we're seeing a little bit of different path here from both of the teams and how much trash they need to end up pulling. Team Deplete still having another 11% to go. It's important to note that the Enforcers do give percentage too, however the mini bosses do not. So they might only have to really kill both those and a very small pack here. Now we see the Enforcer. You got to be a little bit lucky with where it spawns. We're seeing that spawn different edges for both teams here, and they're going again finding that spot where they can line of sight that ability, and just so that they do not end up wiping again to that.
Yeah, and doing a much better job this time. And we can see, though, the healer did get clipped by it. Does have to deal with that dot at this point to heal itself up. Zek taking quite a lot of pressure from this Enforcer as well. And the dot still on the healer. You can see just how punishing this effect really is. This time they're not going to make that mistake. They do manage to get away from that ability around the corner. And now they just have this, I believe this is their last mini-boss.
Now this is the second mini boss for both of them, which is the eye boss. That he doesn't do much. He hits the tank a little bit, and then he does a beam on a person. Right now, with basically exactly the same timing. However, Team Deplete has a little bit more percentage, so it should be technically a little bit ahead, plus less death. But this eye beam, as I mentioned before, it deals a lot of damage again, bolstered by fortified. And that's going to do a lot of damage and also make you do less damage, and that can actually hit the same person more than once. Now it's going on the tank, that's the optimal position, unless it goes on the healer, of course, because if a damage dealer gets that debuff, they're going to deal less damage and make the boss, well, die slower.
Yeah, it can cause quite a few seconds here. Don't Choke seem to be neck and neck, though, with Team Deplete on this one. And it just comes down to, can Don't Choke actually make up time on the trash? We've seen in the past that they were able to do that, looking really impressive on the trash, but like you said, they are trailing behind in percentage at this point. Team Deplete really only needs to target the Enforcer at this point. They don't need to get too much other trash besides that, and you can see that they're getting right onto the Enforcer here. Now this one is in a slightly tricky position, most likely going to have to use the room to actually get the line of sight train going.
Yep, they're gonna do, this is actually exactly what Don't Choke did, exact same plays they did on their second Enforcer. Don't Choke having to deal with a little bit of trash now, they have to deal with it eventually. The problem here for Don't Choke is that Team Deplete has shown they do so much more boss damage, single target damage, and from now on, at least for Team Deplete, they have one boss, one mini boss, and then another boss, all in their favor.
Yeah, they basically only need to do the single target damage. Of course, they do need to deal with those imps as well, but for the most part, really going to be focusing on that single target damage.
Yeah, Team Deplete having a little bit of issue there. The very last explosion that goes off, 3 people take damage from that. Healer having a little bit of a hard time keeping up. However, now they go to the 3rd lieutenant. He doesn't do much other than a frontal ability set the tank just kind of have to deal with and just avoid. We see him running away very far. You can really just sidestep it a little bit to get out of it. But Don't Choke. Now having the same issue here again, not line of sighting it, having every single person have the debuff. We're gonna see really, really big cooldowns come out here and see if the healer can keep this up. That is really dangerous. That's the 2nd time that happens with Don't Choke too.
Yeah, impressive job by the healer though, keeping everybody up. Definitely don't want to see that happen again. Lucky that didn't have to invest more into it as a healer, but the whole team is going to remain healthy here. Now, Team Deplete still working on this lieutenant. It is about to fall, and after that they will be able to jump into this boss. Now, on this boss, Trekkie, what should everyone be looking out for?
Well, they should be looking out for using the Arcane Torrents. That's for sure. They already have, I believe every single person except for the Druid would be Blood Elf, so they're probably just going to rotate them. Also, again, they do have that Silence rune from the Demon Hunter. Probably going to use that on the very first set of ads so that they come all together. They can start just meleeing the tank instead of doing random damage to the whole raid. Important part here is that the boss needs to kind of die fast because it's a little bit of a softened raid for the healer to keep everyone healthy with a fire damage aura that she does that keeps increasing and increasing. And right now we're going to see everyone stack up, gonna spawn the imps just in a second. Everyone's standing in the exact same position here, moving out a little bit as they're gonna spawn from each of those positions where the ad spawned. And now we're probably gonna see I saw silence there right away. The Demon Hunter saving his silence for a little bit later, I think.
And also just saving all of their cooldowns as well. As much as we do say that they are single target specialists here on Team Deplete, very easy to turn on the gas when those imps do come down. You can see those swipes coming out from the cat, just absolutely deleting every single one. Now, Fell Explosives are still going to come out because of the affix, so the group does need to pay attention to them. This pack going to go down a little bit slower here. In the meantime, though, Don't Choke still struggling on the trash. We'll see their healer going down at this point, and they still have a whopping 9% of trash left to go.
Yeah, they're gonna go for the trash here on the bridge, which is a very dangerous pull too, with the with Inquisitors doing quite a lot of raid damage here unless you stun them. There's he does a cast, the Hunter goes down, being a lot of damage on the group too. You have to stun that. They do have that Warrior stun available. Meanwhile, on Team Deplete side, having 5% to go. They did seem to miss an interrupt there, however, it doesn't do that much. It just lowers your max HP, slows you down a little bit if I remember right. But Don't Choke now dealing with his last 2 packs, last 2 mobs, and hopefully that should be able to make up for that 6%. The construct, I believe, gives you 4 or 5%, so I think that is perfect for them. But now Team Deplete dealing with this Guess Who game, which they really do not have to deal with. They just have to spread out one by one, get 1 Remonger each, and then just use that Spectral Sight. They know exactly where it is.
Yeah, if you're Team Don't Choke, you definitely need to be saying ruh-oh right now, because Team Deplete is going to be able to solve this mystery with no problem with their meddling Spectral Sight, and they should be finding who the baddie is in just no time. You can see that skull going up, and this will then become that mini-boss. They'll be able to do that single target damage and then actually activate Melandris to close this one out. Don't Choke, though, will be working on the second boss at this point, and let's see if they're as apt at dealing with these imps as we did see Team Deplete.
Yeah, instantly after they spawn and move around a little bit, we see an instant interrupt, so the ads doesn't get that cast off. Again, the Warrior, I really like how they can stun the trash mobs, especially after DR as well. They do have those Arcade Torrents as well. Make sure you can silence them so they start moving. Meanwhile, Team Deplete on this Dreadlord here, and after this, they just gotta wait for the last boss, and they are quite fairly ahead right now. And it's not tyrannical, which means that the chance of them dying on the last boss is gonna be relatively slim.
Yeah, Don't Choke also is doing a great job on Flame Wreath right now. Should be able to take care of that without a problem. Last set of imps coming out. Looks like they're deciding to just focus on the boss, burn Flame Wreath down, and they're able to do that without any deaths, taking out that last Fel Explosive as well for good measure. And now they are running in to solve the mystery on their own. But Team Deplete is very firmly ahead, having taken down that Dreadlord. That will give the key to the last room. And if Team Deplete doesn't do this very quickly, they are seriously far behind.
I like what I think we saw on Don't Choke there with the Prot Warrior swapping onto his legendary shoulders that gives him 3 leaps and just leaping after leaping. I believe that is what he saw. He's going to change it back as we get to an actual boss that they need to kill. But Team Deplete now being on the last boss, Don't Choke trying to find out, we can't see the camera angle, if they found the right guy yet or not. Does not appear to be, but they don't have all of these clues that the other team had, or if you can have a prop paladin, for example, you can actually speed up it a little bit. Oh, there we go. Don't Choke has found it quite a bit ago, actually.
Yeah, but Jinkies, it did take them a little while. Advisor going to be melting now by Team Deplete, getting some serious damage out. We've been commending them on their single target damage, and that will be crucial here because this one will stack up in damage throughout the entire fight.
This fight will get them more and more dangerous. However, it does kind of have a cap. I don't think you will reach it.
It does have a cap. I don't think that they'll reach it, though, with Unfortified. They won't reach the cap, so it'll probably be scaling up over and over again. This is one of the scariest bosses on Tyrannical in the dungeon.
Yeah, the damage is high. There's a lot of space on this room. It's a relatively small room, and it will get filled up with these tornadoes and these blade surges as well. Not blade surges, the piercing. That's gonna take off a lot of space. However, I like what Don't Choke is doing here. They're kiting the boss about a little bit towards where they need to go, just to cut down a little bit on time. As long as nobody's losing DPS by moving, there's no reason not to really. Team Deplete now, 35% more to go. Are they gonna have any major mishaps right now to make it to let Don't Choke able to catch up?
I think if they did fall down here, that would be the second mystery of this dungeon. I don't think that it is going to happen, especially on not on Tyrannical. Melandris about to fall down. The single target damage that Team Deplete has put out time and time again is just so impressive. Just come on, game, give them loot.
Yeah, and there's another 5% to go. The big AoE that people end up wiping to has already happened. We see it happening at 1% as well. There we go. Team Deplete taking the 3rd game.
Yeah, Team Deplete completes the reversal there against Don't Choke. And I want to call out Don't Choke. It's not, we saw sparks from them, right? We saw them doing the little things, leading the boss where they need to go, switching, as you said, the shoulders to get the leap charges. Like, they were doing the little things.